Katherine, thank you so much for inviting me to this beautiful and stunning location, and your workshop here is amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. We do love it here. It's really nice with the river view, and I can't quite believe it's there, because in London you've got a lot of things that are quite close to you, but we've got all this space and the river, so it's really lovely.
So how did you start it?
I was studying fashion at university, so I knew I wanted to do something in fashion. But then at the end of it, I knew that clothes were quite flat until you put them on, and I was more theatrical, I wanted things to come out. Yeah. So at the end, a lady came from Frederick Fox, who was the milliner to the Queen Mum at the time, and a lady came from his company and taught us about hats, and she'd made a hat from rocks. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. So she's making this 3D sculpture that's a bit of fashion art, and it's all coming together. So, I love doing illustrations and things, I suppose, more than sewing by machine. So I could hand sew, I could draw a sculpture, I could create a sculpture. So it's everything's coming together, all the whole art side. Mm-hmm. And then I thought, well, I need to do this for my final project. So I went to work for Stephen Jones for a bit, one of the top milliners, him and Philip Tracy, I would say the biggest, the best. So I went to work for him, and I worked for Katherine Delaney after that, in theatre and film and fashion, understanding more of the business and what to do. And then I learnt from books and reading, but at the time we didn't have online, so you went to courses and you went to the milliner and you found the milliner. So I was in London and she was in Waterloo, so I did that, and then I just wanted to set up on my own, so I did it part-time. You're at the beginning, you're setting up your business.
As always,
so about 20 odd years ago, nearly 25 now, I can't believe it. I set up mine, and then I just built it up with clients, and I started in Richmond. Loved it there, had a studio there, and then Craft Central, I knew that there were another studio in London, and I thought I need to come into London. So we got this studio in London, actually next door to Seema, who makes all this beautiful jewellery, and that's how we met as well. But then they, in the end, decided to turn it into a hotel and change it. That was in Farringdon, and they changed it slightly, so we needed somewhere else to go. And my friend Melanie was here, had a wedding dress designer, she had a shop here, and said, come and have a look. So we did, and we just fell in love with this place here. So we've been here about 7 years. So I've been, over the years, just building up my business, working with clients, celebrities, people who are going to Ascot weddings, working with stylists. Luckily, recently we got into Harper's, which was really nice.
Congratulations.
And actually, I actually got into Harper's years ago as well when I first started, and that was one thing that really pushed me to go forward. So I sent out a press release to a lot of magazines, and Harper's actually came back and said, we want this hat for the shopping page. I was like, that's amazing. I've only just started my career and I'm getting to Harper's. So I sent it, they put it in. I'm just flabbergasted, because I was in Somerset at the time before I'd moved to London, in between university, and then that was great. And I thought, oh, this is easy. This is life now. Oh, and you don't realise that that's such an amazing break to get, and you're not going to have that all the time.
Yeah, of course.
So you've got your ups, your downs. You're meeting people, you meet stylists, you meet celebrities. Then you don't, then you do, then and you're just slowly building the brand the whole time. Yeah. And I love to handcraft and hand make everything, so I love doing this as a career.
I can tell. The craftsmanship is screaming. So I would like to know, how much have you evolved from all of these years, from your beginning to today? How much have you changed the way you see hats and your inspiration and designs? Have you started with the same signature, this style we see now, or have you changed and your inspiration changed?
I suppose I'll always love sculptures and that side of it, but obviously my skills have got better, because you start off and you start making, you start learning. You can't always sell at the beginning, and you're trying to understand how it all works and make good hats. So probably obviously make better hats now than I did at the beginning, but you get to a certain standard and then you just flow with it. So you're probably working for a year or so, learning all of the trade of how to do it, and then you build up, and then I start loving making big sculptural pieces, and then I realised, well, I have to look at the business side of it, because I wasn't so business minded. I thought, well, you just put them out there and they sell, and that's not how it works. You have to start selling and marketing and everything, and understanding what the clients need. So then I realised, well, they love things that are slightly toned down sculptural pieces, so they'd come to me and say, I love that, and they'd come to me because of that, but they want something smaller for the wedding, so I would tone it down a bit. Now I understand they love flowers, they love shapes, they love round, they love things that are kind of normal with a little bit of hint of sculpture and difference. So I'll make that kind of collection, which is classic, and then I'll make these pieces, which is what I love, which is more sculptural. And then I also make a few pieces like that pink one, which you've got sculpture, but you've also got flowers, so it's a mix. So we'll make, I always make headbands and things because I know that that's good for clients. And I'll make headpieces because that's good for weddings. Then I'll make the sort of rounder, slightly larger hats because that's kind of pushing Ascot. And then I'll make my big sculptural ones, which are the Ascot ones. So I have 4 ranges, which I do. And I have developed my style. It has changed. My colours have changed. I've gone more ambitious with colours. I don't make so many Mother of the Bride styles because that's what 20 years ago was kind of in, but now it isn't. So we'll make more now halos, which were never in before. So I do go with trends. I always look at trends. I always look at themes. I bring in my own inspiration and my own themes, and I look at what's in fashion and what's happening, and that's how I create my collections. So I used to get clients who were more timid, wanting smaller things. Now I'm more well known. People are coming to me because I make more sculptures, and so I'm bringing those clients in, which I love. And because I'm here and I'm getting more passing trade than we had in the other studio, people are seeing sculptures and coming in for that. But they all, most of the time want to tone it down a little bit. But we're always looking at this, the psychology, the personality, the look of their dress, the shape of their face, the colour of their hair, the personality they've got, because they could be really tall but have a timid personality, so they want something small. Or they're really bold, they've got a larger face, they're loud, they're more theatrical, and then they're going to go something really sculptural. So I'm trying to suss out their personality and who they are as soon as they walk in, and try. And some people are scared of hats as well. And there's always a hat for everyone. So I'll say, okay, you think you don't suit hats, but I know there's a hat for you. So I'll try it on them, and then they go, oh, wow, start thinking, oh, I love this. And they become more braver.
So are there do's and don'ts in terms of hats and in terms of styling a hat? Would you say that a specific shape or body of a woman or the height has specific kind of shapes of hats?
Yes, so if you've got a round face and you don't want to wear a round hat because that'll accentuate the roundness in your face, so you wear something more architectural and maybe slanted and more of a shape happening. So most hats I always put on the parting side of a lady, because the other side you've got more hair, so you'll style up that side, and your parting side you'll have less, so you'll put the hat on that side. So always on the parting. Always a slant because that's prettier. There's always something we don't like on our face, I find, and the hat will take away from that. So it makes you look prettier as well, everyone. And so round face, wear a more architectural one. If you've got a very sculptured face and very sort of quite a strong jaw, then you can go for more round because that'll soften it. Also, people who are round face can go for more trilbies. If you've got an oval face, you normally suit most hats. You might have like another face. You might have like what they call it, heart-shaped face, which you've got more of a point and bigger down here. So then you want to have something that cuts across, so it makes the face a bit smaller. If you've got a really long face, then you want to shorten it. So again, something that cuts across, not something that's going to go up like that because it'll make the face look longer. Also, they say there's a shape of sort of this angle that makes you look smaller because you're wearing something that brings you down. And if you wear a shape that's like this, which goes out, that makes you look taller.
That's very interesting. So smart styling, right?
Yeah,
it's smart. So. I love it.
Yeah, and if they've got shoulder pads, then you're going to have to have a wide hat because otherwise it's going to look funny if you're quite wide and you're wearing something too small. So all these things. And if you've got a pleat on your dress, then we put that into the hat, or if you've got flowers, this sort of thing.
This is like an architect, like you have to know all of the shapes and what is matching with what. So
true. I had an architect in the other day and I loved it because she said, oh, this reminds me of buildings, and it's a Zaha Hadid.
Exactly.
And she said that reminds me of a building that she made, and I thought that's amazing because I love her work. And I take inspiration from architecture. So now an architect's coming in and saying, I could take inspiration from your hat.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's a form of art, of course.
All hats did tell you what state the person was in, what status, and what they did as well. So we've come out of that now. Ladies as well, it goes back hundreds and hundreds of years, and kings, and probably back to 1300s or no, even further than that, isn't it? So there was lots of different reasons, but I remember the Duchess of Devonshire and people saying that she brought fascinators in because she used to wear things in her hair, and she'd have all these massive hairdos, and she put feathers in her hair. So that was then called a fascinator, and that grew and grew to wearing a ship on her head. And she just wanted to really go out there and show everybody what status she was and that she was wonderful, and she was a real icon for fashion, and everybody would look at her and then start copying her for fashion. So she would wear the most craziest things, and they call that a fascinator. But now fascinator really is something that's a feather. So also the men put feathers in their hats before before she did. So then that's something that would go into the size of like a trilby or what's it, the all those French men with the big boots. Oh, I can't remember.
The Austrian style.
Sorry,
The Austrian style.
Yeah, true. They have that as well. So they would, and then it went from there. So that's a fascinator. Fascinator is a headband with feathers on it. But now everybody calls a fascinator anything. This could be a fascinator, but it's not. A fascinator is a headband with feathers in it because it comes from her, really. And then everything else is a headpiece, and then it grows into a hat and like that. But then you go through the ages, and say in the 40s we wore a lot of hats, and 30s they wore felt hats, and they didn't have so much money then. But aristocracy would, obviously, but normal people, they would, like women, they would want to wear hats to show that they have a status as well and look beautiful, and they would often make their own. But we had loads of milliners then, didn't we? We had so many women who were milliners. My great-great-grandmother was a milliner.
Really?
Before they get married, lots of women would be hat makers because there's so many hats needed. But also a lot of women would cut up their hats, reinvent their hats and make things at home. And then I love all that from the 40s. And then in the 50s, you got cocktail hats. So if you go to dinner, you would wear your hat, but the gentleman has to take his hat off. Right, the women could wear their hats. As
during
long as
the dinner, right?
During the dinner, so they could wear something like a headpiece like that. Because they'd style their hair around it, so then they'd keep the hat on. But if the man wore their hat, that would be wrong. They'd have to take theirs off. But the women, styling it around the hair. But now they would say, well, you should take your hat off at dinner. You shouldn't wear your hat at dinner. You don't see the royals wearing the hats at dinner, but they would wear tiaras at dinner. But then the cocktail hats were kind of around then, and Dior. And now it took a decline. I think in the 70s it was still really big, and you had David Schilling, and he would make lots of crazy hats for his mum. It was quite big then, and then it took a bit of a downturn. Oh, in the 60s it did as well, because the young people didn't want to be like their parents, and they didn't want to wear hats anymore, so they burnt all these hat blocks.
The rebellious generation.
And these beautiful blocks, they would pile them up and burn them, and I can't believe they did that. So that changed things a bit. Came back in the 70s, then went downhill a little bit. But in the 80s, you saw a lot of men starting to wear hats and things as well. But then it's been creeping up again since. And the royals really help us with hats, and celebrities as well. We were listening to the talk the other day, the Bespoke tailors, and it's just interesting for them to say that young people are really thinking about the environment and not wasting clothes. And I thought, that is good. So they are growing up wanting to have lovely luxury pieces that they're going to wear and wear again and again. So if that continues and they grow up and they have more of disposable income, they can wear beautiful suits, they can wear beautiful hats. And I think this is great because I'm hand making this piece and they can keep it forever. They can come back and have a flower or something changed on it, so it changes the hat a little bit, but they're still being able to wear it again and again. And you've got it forever. You can hand it down to your grandchildren, and it will just stay, keep it in the box and it will stay as it is. So it's a beautiful bespoke piece, which is really good for the environment, so we're not throwing it away. So that's better. Royals really help. They're still wearing hats, thank God. Okay, our princesses are still wearing them.
But how easy is to maintain the hat? Can we do it ourselves, or do we have to bring it back to the actual hat maker and help us maintain with specific products or actions that you are doing and we are not familiar with?
Well, you're going to keep it in the hat box, so that'll keep the dust off it. But if it does get dusty, then just blow it with a hairdryer to get the dust off. So don't touch it with anything wet, because that might help it go into the grains of the hat. So you just dust it off with a hairdryer. And then if you get dirt inside it, we put a Petersham inside, a ribbon, so you can bring it back to us and we can take out the Petersham and put a new bit in. So if you've got a bit of makeup that's going into the hat, we can clean it that way. There are some like baby wipes and things that will take off certain things as long as it's not going to put oil onto that fabric. So it depends on the hat. If it gets wet, then I would just leave it out on the side and don't touch it. Don't put it in a bag or leave it on your head until it's going to dry, because then it will just stay in the shape of your head. But if you then you put it in a bag and you crush it, it's going to take on the shape of that. So I say leave it on your head until you get home. or put it into a box, or just carry it lightly till you get home, put it on the side, let it dry, and then it'll be fine. Things like this, this will just dry, this will dry. If you've got coffee on it, you might have an issue because of the stain, because it's so white.
Yeah.
And I always put this in when people are trying on so that it doesn't get dirty inside.
And that's good with the makeup as well, because it goes a little bit down.
Yeah. So you can keep things like that in it. You can always use baby wipes on this. You can use dye. Sometimes I might use Tipex if I've got a tiny bit of something and I want to just make it white. Take it to a dry cleaner, see if they can do something.
Yeah.
Also, if it does get crushed, then you can steam it over a kettle, and that helps it come back to life. So it will take on the shape that it did have before.
Oh, wow.
So you steam it and you just push it until it comes back. So this is pretty strong, but if I really force my finger in and it was damp, then it might take on that shape. But then if I steam it, I can push it back out again.
That's beautiful.
And it will come back to what it was. So you can.
It's like it's alive.
And this is, natural. This is from a bird. This is a quill. So if we yanked that and snapped it, so it's going to snap. But if we just put that in a box like this, it'll stay like that forever.
How long does it take for the hat to be made?
2 days to 3 days to a week.
Okay.
Because if I'm making an Ascot hat, it might be 2 days full on sewing, but then I need to see the client, check it, make some alterations. Other clients, other things I need to do, and so I say an Ascot hat would take me a week. A headpiece from start to finish might take me a day, but then also I've got to see the client and do other bits and pieces, and then you're ordering in the fabrics. You're also talking to the client via text and via email and all these things, so they can take a while. So I like to have 4 weeks for the client, because I want to start designing it, ordering the fabric, start designing, show them, make sure they're happy. They need to have time to be able to come back, and all these different factors that come in, and then ordering the fabric. So I like 4 weeks, and if you give me 6, then that's even better.
This is the more realistic kind of time slot for a hat. That's amazing. And in your opinion, what are your top 3 ladies, either from history or from recent times, that you would like to dress and with your hats?
Lady Gaga, I think I would love to dress. Obviously the royals, Princess of Wales. I would love to dress her, the Queen, or any of the royals. It's great. I actually made a hat for when Princess Kate got married and she got engaged. They made a commemorative doll, and the bag designer made a mini bag, and then the dress designer made a mini dress. So it was all designers who did it, and then they asked me to make a mini hat. So I made a hat that big, and then they replicated it and created this doll. So that was my closest. And I met Camilla a few times, so I'd love to make for her, and other just celebrities. Lots of them around, but there's people that like drama, who like to wear something a bit crazy. Would be really fun.